Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is your boy Tanvir Sai, the Bengal Dragon, Blind Man Reviews. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons, as all your support really helps this legally blind YouTube content creator to continue remaining motivated to making a lot of videos on these channels, and through the YouTube algorithm to really help this channel grow. To close out what has been 2023, I am going to review God of War Ragnarok Valhalla DLC. Let us start first with the accessibility. The accessibility, it definitely got some attention, as you can see that there's actually a readout for Valhalla in the main menu, but still, it definitely felt very rushed. I mean, a lot of times, if you go through my gameplay, you can see that I keep pressing the navigation marker button, and the navigation marker keeps pointing me to dead ends or keeps pointing me towards the sky. And you saw at that point, I named that video, Am I Punished for Being Legally Blind? I've even shown this when I'm standing right in front of a door where the navigation marker is telling me, no, go somewhere at the sky. Whereas I should just press the circle button on what is in front of my face. And this type of false navigation, this is actually especially troublesome in the ruins of Olympus part, where the longer you take, the more difficult the enemies become. And believe me, once the enemies start to surround you and even your escape rolls, it doesn't take you away from them, that's where you have some issues. Furthermore, why would you even put a mode like that and not have some type of assistance for people with low vision when you know that people with low vision or other disabilities take longer times to navigate? Why are you punishing them for something that they have no control over? Also, you can see this in my gameplay. I spent a lot of times reading the text on screen, and these are just the main text. This is not the text that you get as notes. No, this is to do with reading the chest rewards, reading the different tablets options, and what I can buy and how much resources it will cost and whatnot. Listen, for a DLC that focuses so much on combat and the speed of your reflexes, the less visual strain you put on the player, the better it is. Because the less visual strain you put on the player, the more they can focus and the more they can immerse themselves into the DLC, into the game. So the more visual strain you put, believe me, people start getting a headache. I started getting a headache, man. I had to take power naps after some of my God of War playing sessions. Text to speech definitely needed an improvement. And I have to bring this up. I noticed that there was an update pretty much right after I tagged Sony Santa Monica Studios on one of my gameplay videos. And yes, after that update, I will admit it, the navigation markers stopped pointing at the sky that often and pointed me more or less like 95, 96% of the time in the right direction. So thank you very much for that, Sony. It is deeply appreciated. But there is still a lot more work to be done. Okay. If God of War Ragnarok is going to have another DLC, or if there's going to be a follow up, or if there's going to be a separate game that focuses on Sigrun or Atreus or Loki, whatever name he goes by, then yes, there is a lot more work to be done in terms of improving the accessibility. My overall accessibility score, 6.5 out of 10. Now let us move on to the gameplay. First of all, huge improvement. Apart from that beginning part, I did not come across any of that stupid boat. If you've seen my God of War Ragnarok playthrough, the main version, you know that I hate the boat. The boat controls are so broken. Okay, thankfully, that is not here, apart from the beginning part on where you have to get to the shores. Also, I did not come across any of those stupid runic chest puzzles. So, great improvement on that. However, it did not help that the color of the different tablets, the tablet of endeavor, tablet of reflection, tablet of influence, their color was such that it almost blended in with the rest of the background. And a lot of times I had to use just the audio cues alone to determine where they are. So perhaps a flashing tablet next time. I also had to switch back and forth between high contrast mode and regular mode. Yeah, it does help, but it sort of breaks the immersion. And just a flashing marker or a flashing tablet or a striped tablet or something like that, it wouldn't be that difficult. As for the combat, I'll admit much of it is due to me basically forgetting how the God of War combat system worked for a visually impaired person with all audio cues on. But once I got used to it, once I remembered what everything is, and once my reflexes were good enough, yes, the experience was pretty enjoyable, and it was actually challenging enough to be doable. Enjoyable most of the time, but overall, from beginning to end, doable. You just need to have patience. Gameplay overall score 7 out of 10. Now, let us move on to the story and what God of War does better than any other game out there ever. The game is about Kratos visiting Valhalla and confronting the demons of his past. Why he got there, who invited him, was revealed very well as well. Freya, now, in the rebuilding process for all the realms after Ragnarok, wants to create a governing council, and Freya wants Kratos to be the new god of war, a title that Kratos wants nothing to do with. We find that it is Tyr, the Norse god of war, that invited him. And this journey through memory lane is done brilliantly. We hear nothing but mostly regret from the voice of Kratos. References were made to God of War Chains of Olympus, God of War 1, and mostly God of War 3. A sprinkle of the other games are there as well. Furthermore, remember in my God of War Ragnarok review, I had a complaint that there was no Olympian cameo. Well, this time they rectified it. And it was done brilliantly. We got the severed head of Helios from time to time that replaces the severed head of Mimir. Kratos being able to use the Blade of Olympus as an additional rage mode is also a very good addition. This DLC also has its badass moments. For me, the most badass moment was when Kratos revisits the sacrificial chamber from Pandora's temple. He chooses to sacrifice himself and be burned alive and seeing what happens instead of putting Helios's head there the last time, which got later swapped by Mimir's head at the very last moment. The story of Lysandra, where Kratos blames himself for not being a good husband. The story of Calliope, where Kratos still regrets not spending some more time with her and being compelled to make a decision that will abandon her forever again. The stories of the boat captain that did not do anything to him, but Kratos killed him anyways for his key, where all the boat captain did was beg Kratos for help. The regret, absolutely brilliant. Tyr's role as a pseudo therapist for Kratos was done brilliantly as well. Tyr provides so much more perspective. He provides an exocentric perspective. For example, Kratos making that pact with Ares to win the war against the barbarians Had the barbarians won, his homeland would be destroyed, and everything that he fought for to defend Sparta as the youngest captain of Sparta would be lost. So, a lot of decisions what Kratos made were out of compulsion, not seeing the consequences of his actions or not even being able to fathom them. Consequences that were out of his control. On the other hand, Helios's role, blaming Kratos for all of his choices and emphasizing on the consequences of his actions. Helios showing up time and time again during the ruins of Olympus segment. And that dichotomy, Tyr being the voice of reason, Helios being the voice of accusation. People, on a psychological level, this is pure gold. People, people, I'm not exaggerating here. If this were actually taught in some psych classes, I would not be surprised because Kratos is conflicted both with Tyr's perspective and exocentric perspective. Helios's perspective, a somewhat egocentric perspective, and Kratos' own perspective, a complete egocentric perspective. All these three perspectives are trying to reconcile with each other in Kratos' head. Which brings me to the dialogue. Oh my god, the dialogue is so phenomenal. People, you have to play this DLC. And before playing this DLC, you have to have knowledge of Kratos' journey. Okay? You have to have knowledge of what Kratos went through to appreciate every line, every word in this dialogue related to Kratos' past. I'll give you an example of very well placed dialogue. Okay? Here, whilst talking about Pandora and a box full of evils, and Kratos explaining that Pandora deserved better than being a tool of the gods, Tyr says, "Thanks for allowing yourself to remember." Very important line. Thanks for allowing yourself to remember. Now, who do we know who does not allow herself to remember something painful? Someone who her developers have misused for over 20 years? Kratos shows that he even nearly killed himself in the service of the gods in a chance, a hope of redemption when he restored the sun god back to his chariot, and Helios saved his life. Which brings me to the ending. And oh my god, what a brilliant ending! First, let us start with this scene where Kratos is shown that he sacrificed himself once again to release hope to the rest of the world that remained after the destruction of Olympus.
When the evils of the box were purged, what remained was hope, which you chose to release back to the world.
Yes. After everything, you came back full circle to sacrificing yourself.
That was meant for me! They will not know what to do with it!
This shows you Kratos always had regret. Even when he was in Greece, he always had regret. But his need for vengeance was more important than anything else.
Pandora was sacrificed in vain. She died because of my need for vengeance.
Even there, Kratos realized that innocent people, people who don't deserve death, are dying because of his need for vengeance. Gear later explains that it's the choices of who occupies the throne that defines what that office is going to be, what that title, God of War, is going to be. Now, let us get to this final confrontation and how brilliant it is.
What can I say to you? I remember how it felt to take that throne. All that it meant. And all that it did not. A god of war. A god of pain. Of suffering. Of destruction. And the one said I chase redemption that I know I can never deserve. What does that make me? God of fools. A god of... hope. When all else is lost.
Kratos mentions hope, a god of hope, when all else is lost. And he basically quotes Pandora.
Locked deep inside of you, Kratos, is hope. It has remained buried, trapped by your guilt and the failures of your past. When you killed Zeus, you must have allowed something to awaken it. What was it, Kratos?
Hope is what makes us strong. It is why we are here. It is what we fight with when all else is lost.
This entire monologue was Kratos basically understanding that although what he has done cannot be forgiven,
You lost everything. And everyone. You became... There is no forgiving you. You chose! I chose.
although upon that throne he still fears that he will become his former self, a god of suffering, a god of destruction.
Should I lose everything and everyone? There's to be enough left inside so that I do not become you. I do not know. But I have hope.
This time he chooses to have hope. Hope that he can be better. Hope that he can finally give himself a chance of redemption. The chance the gods of Olympus never really gave him. A hope to be in service to other people instead of being in service to other gods, gods that only use him for their own agendas. And this part, when Kratos says,
You are cruel and arrogant and selfish. But you are more than that. You have always been more than what others saw. You are more than that.
this is a nod to Kratos' conscience that we even see in God of War 1.
By the gods, what have I become?
And returning back to God of War 3, what is the first thing Kratos says after defeating Zeus, after his need for vengeance has been satisfied?
Mankind is now ready to hear my message.
Look around you, Athena. The world stands in ruin.
What good is your message?
That line, the first thing he says is out of regret, out of sympathy, out of remorse for the actions that he has taken in the need for his vengeance and the price that other people had to pay so that Kratos can get his vengeance. Helios's lines to emphasize the consequences of Kratos' need for vengeance were also done so well. It's to the point where Helios actually mocks Kratos for trusting Athena's plan, whereas at that point, Kratos still believed that he was a mortal, he was not a demigod. He had no idea, so he trusted the judgment of the gods of Olympus, not knowing that he was being manipulated. And this is why Kratos' story is very complicated, but in terms of character development, just awesome. However, I do have one gripe with the ending. The younger Kratos needed to talk back to the older Kratos in the voice of TC Carson or someone similar. I do know why it didn't happen, and a huge kudos to Christopher Judge for choosing not to do any of the young Kratos' voice in reverence and respect of T.C. Carson's work. However, if this was a dialogue exchange instead of a monologue, it would have been so much better. And as it is right now, believe me, it gives me chills. There is a lot more that cannot be explained without experiencing it, including the sound and the music composition, including the ambience and the atmosphere. That when Kratos opened that door, all that was there was the throne and old Kratos confronting young Kratos, who was sitting on that throne and who actually starts to move. If you notice carefully, he starts to pay attention to old Kratos. Brilliant, man. But overall, I will have to deduct a little bit for no TC Carson because I don't know. Maybe this is the fanboy in me. I really want TC Carson and Christopher Judge as young Kratos and old Kratos at least having a conversation. If such a video exists on YouTube, please point me to where I can find it. But still, what a phenomenal story, ladies and gentlemen. 9.5 out of 10. Overall, what a fantastic DLC. God of War remains the undisputed champion of character development and storytelling in a game by a long shot. There is no other, believe me, ever. I challenge anyone to bring a game that tells a story better than God of War Ragnarok and God of War Ragnarok Valhalla in terms of character development. What a great story. Oh my God. Especially that ending, man. Believe me, it still gives me chills that Kratos says, "You lost everything and everyone." And to paraphrase, will I become a monster like you again, lose everything and everyone again? I do not know, but I have hope. My overall score for this entire DLC, what a fantastic DLC, especially considering the fact that this was free. This was free. We didn't have to pay an additional $6.99 or nothing. No, this was free. 9 out of 10, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. Listen, even Mimir's love story with Sigrid, okay, Sony Santa Monica Studios put a love story in a redemption arc of Kratos, basically a therapy session for Kratos, where Kratos comes to terms with the demons of his past. And believe me, Kratos has a lot of demons from his past. Sony Santa Monica Studios put a love story in there and connected that well to Kratos. Their execution was that good, nearly flawless. David Jaffe can say all he wants about him wanting Kratos to be a static character. Listen. Kratos is not Sweet Tooth, okay? Sweet Tooth is a static character. Kratos from the beginning had a lot of depth to him. Kratos is the greatest example of character development, and Kratos being a god of war, of pain, suffering, and misery, to a god of war of hope. This development, this character arc is a very good thing. What the future holds for God of War, I do not know, but I have hope. Thank you so much for watching. This will close out this year in terms of videos. Please do hit that like, subscribe, bell notification buttons, and follow me on Twitter at TanTiger01 as well. This, believe me, was a lot of hard work playing this game, as I constantly had to battle the broken accessibility system and fight motion sickness and visual fatigue again and again, to the point where I was actually considering not doing any more gameplays anymore. But I was that passionate about this game and about this game story. So it would be deeply appreciated and very motivational, for that like, subscribe, and that share. Anyways, you guys have a happy new year. Hopefully, you had a wonderful 2023, and I will see you in 2024. This is Tanveer Side, the Bengal Dragon, Blind Man Reviews, signing out.